This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another sports catastrophe on this date. And on this day, July the 18th, 1999, John Van Velde made a boneheaded move that cost him dearly and winning the British Open, or as everyone calls it, the Open. So anyway, the 1999 Open was at Carnoustie in Scotland. And it was a tough layout. Well, that Carnoustie, this was the sixth time in history they would host the British Open. 1931, 1937, 1953, 1968, 1975. That was it. So, many past champions, only 3 past champions of the British Open made the cut. Justin Leonard, who won 97, Greg Norman, who was the 86 and 93 champion, and Nick Price, who was the 94 champion, all made the cut. Missing the cut was Tom Watson, 5-time champ, 75, 77, 80, 82, 83. Tom Lehman, the 96 British Open champion. Nick Faldo, the 87, 90, and 92 champion. Then the previous champion, the 98 champion, Mark O'Meara. Then the 89 champion, Mark Kokovecchia. Bob Charles, the 1963 champion, was also in the field. Gary Player, the 59, 68, and 74 champion. Seve Ballesteros, 79, 84, 88. Scotland's Sandy Lyle, 1985, and Tony Jacklin, 1969 champion, were there too. After the first round, Rod Pampling of Australia with an even par round was in the lead, one up on Scott Dunlop and Bernard Longer, my man, Bernard Longer, because he won the Masters in 1985. At 2 over was Dudley Hart, Paul Lawrie, Justin Leonard, Mark McNulty, Len Matisse, Steve Pate, and Hal Sutton. So it was a tight one. Remember, the British Open is one of the toughest. That it's hard to get under par sometimes. Meanwhile, in the second round, Jean Van Velde, this unheralded Frenchman, who had a 75 on day 1, had a 68 on day 2 with a 143, which is a plus 1 because it's a par 71. So he was at plus 1 and leading by 1 stroke over Angel Cabrera and Jasper Parnevik. So there were a lot of moves and all of that. Tiger Woods was only 3 back of the field. He was tied with Greg Norman and Patrick Sugden. The top amateur was Luke Donald. By the way. So now we got to the third round. Van Velde had a easy peasy 70, 1 under par 70 to take the lead by 5 strokes headed to the final round against Justin Leonard and Craig Perry. Meanwhile, Tiger was not that far off. Well, he was 7 off, but he was closing in on second place. With Andrew Coulthard of Scotland and David Frost of South Africa. Also in the top 10, Angel Cabrera, Greg Norman, Bernard Longer, Miguel Angel Martinez, Len Matisse, Colin Montgomery, and Frank Nobilo. So it's time for the final round. So the final round happened. Van Velde had a 5-stroke lead over Perry and Leonard. But for some strange reason, he faltered. Craig Perry, it wasn't all his fault. Craig Perry had played a great back 9. He was -3 through the day, through 11, and Van Velde was +3. So unfortunately, Perry had a triple bogey on 12, and Van Velde regained sole possession with a bogey. Perry would have a couple of mistakes and all that. He did hole a bunker shot on 18. So he was looking for something. He was at +7. In the meantime, John Van Velde had to watch Justin Leonard put up a birdie on 14. However, bogeys on 15 and 18 had him trouble, and Van Velde birdies on 14. So Leonard would be tied with Lawrie. Paul Lawrie came out of freaking nowhere. He was 10 back. Lawrie put up a 67, a 4 under par round, a surprise round, if you will. He had birdie, well, he had a couple of bogeys, but he birdied 3, 6, 8, 12, 14, and 17 to be at +6 through the playoffs. Then Leonard was at +6, so Van de Velde was headed to the 18th hole. He had a 3-stroke lead. Anyway, Van de Velde had a 3-stroke lead, and a popular theory was that they had engraved Van de Velde's name on the claret jug. However, they said no because the guy does it on the last thing. So anyway, Van de Velde was in control. All he needed was a par. Even a double bogey would give him the title. ABC was like a little nervous, saying that why is he teeing up with a driver? He should play it simple. Get your par. You win the claret jug. And all that. Van de Velde pushed his shot far to the right over the water and onto the 17th hole. He thought he was up by 2 strokes instead of 3. Anyway, Van de Velde could have laid up with a wedge and then just get there, but he decided to take his 2-iron out. Unfortunately, it took a bad bounce off the grandstand, and it was in an area of knee-deep rough. He would have been much better off if it hit the grandstand. If it stayed in the grandstand, he would have been able to drop without a penalty. But anyway, the thick Carnoustie grass ruined him, and he put the shot into the burn, or what we call a water trap. Of course, that's the picture you see. There's Van de Velde in the water. He wanted to play it from the water, but he decided against it and knew he had to take a drop, so he lost a stroke. And then he hit his 5th shot into one of the deep bunkers. If he pitched out from the bunkers, he would have ended up winning by a stroke. Unfortunately, he didn't. He did hit his 6-foot putt for triple bogey, which would make it a 3-way playoff between himself, Paul Lawrie, and Justin Leonard. And France had a massive chokery to do with championships, because no Frenchman had ever won a major since 1907. It was the 1907 Open with Arnaud Massey. I don't think a Frenchman has ever won a major since 1907. I don't remember, but anyway, yeah, it could have been the first. He could have been the first Frenchman to win since the 1907 Open with Arnaud Massey. But as is, it would end up being a tie. Arnaud Cabrera and Craig Perry both missed by a stroke of making the playoff. Greg Norman took 6. Tiger took the tie for 7th. So it's now the playoff. The 4-hole aggregate playoff was put on the final 4 holes, 15, 16, 17, 18. And they all did bad. But Van de Velde hit a double bogey on 15. Well, Lawrie and Leonard bogeyed. And then on 16, they all 3 bogeyed. On 17, Lawrie hit a birdie putt to go 1 over. Leonard parred and Van de Velde birdied. So Lawrie had a 1-stroke lead in the aggregate. On the final playoff hole, Leonard bogeyed, Van de Velde bogeyed. Paul Lawrie had an easy birdie, and Paul Lawrie of Scotland, who was 10 strokes back after 3 rounds, actually pulled off one of the biggest upsets of all time and won the British Open. It was unbelievable. What an unlikely champion, but Paul Lawrie did it. And he was Scottish, so, the fans were there. Leonard and Van de Velde ended up tied for 2nd, but man, Paul Lawrie, can you believe this guy? He was just, thankful and all that. That Leonard and Perry both made boo-boos. But Paul Lawrie won the 1999 British Open, and I believe since There has been no Frenchman to win a major title. So, yeah, Velde pulled off a terrible move. And, he was ridiculed for it. But that's what happens when you deal with pressure and all that. And that's when it doesn't matter how much you lead by. If you have a lead by like 2 strokes and you can par the hole, just par the hole, it's over. It doesn't matter how you do it. You get it. You win. But no, he just had to be macho Camacho. But it failed miserably. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.